AoE specials only check visible stats.
Yeah, I think a lot of people aren't recognizing that her A slot and her weapon both don't add anything. Well, her weapon's base might does, but the special effects don't add anything to her AoE. It's
Right.
actual stats, like prior to battle.
That being said, if legendary Lilina at base has any attack boost whatsoever, she will kill a refined brave Hector at base.
Wait, really?
Yes. It's extremely close. It's like either exact lethal or it's either exact or she misses it by 1 without any attack buffs.
No, are we talking about like a player Hector? Like, or is it we're talking about parity where they're like the same merges?
Same merges. So
yeah,
legendary Lilina at base, brave Hector with his refine at base. Both of them neutral. Lilina, if she has any attack buff whatsoever, she wins.
Okay.
As long as she initiates.
Yeah. Obviously. The only issue I have with that, like that line of thinking, is just that most Hectors aren't gonna be like just, having nothing on them.
No, that's true. That's very true. But it's also one of those things where it's another thing that's actually it's usually a pretty good measurement of how well a unit is going to be able to hold up, simply because we have that test against the triangle.
Okay,
and
true.
Hector is one of the most prevalent blue units in the game now.
Yeah, someone pointed out you do recognize you're talking about like one-shotting her father.
Yes.
Okay.
I fully recognize that.
That's a true familial spat. All right. Anyways, let's talk about her base kit. I'm surprised actually, because if you think about it, why didn't they go back to this concept earlier? This concept of AoE character, like grounds up, built to be spamming AoEs. Because outside Ophelia,
she does.
Huh?
She does get to spam it completely with impunity because that kit is insane.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm surprised they haven't re-explored this, because Igrin was the closest thing outside Ophelia. Ophelia was built from the grounds up to spam AoEs, but Igrin was the closest thing remaining, like, since then, to spamming AoEs. That's only like 3 characters in all that time this game has been around, so I'm surprised. It's something that they should have explored a bit more, and I'm glad they are exploring it. Because this is pretty fresh. And by the way, this is such a market improvement over Ophelia that it's insane. Right?
I mean, it's one of those yes and no kind of things. While Lilina doesn't need special spiral, Ophelia does have other infantry skills available to her as an edge.
Such
Gifted
as?
Magic is special spiral itself with the standard blazing whatever skill.
Well, that's confusing because
the thing is that's a 1.5 multiplier on the attack minus def or res.
Right.
It's gonna be res in this case.
Right.
Whereas 0.8, that's it, quite a bit lower as far as potential on the damage for that. That being said, the fact that it can be spammed without having to have any accelerated cooldown is still quite good.
Yeah, so I was gonna go to that, because if you factor in the fact that Lilina has higher base attack, it's 42. If you factor in that sabotage res that she comes with, because she can open up her B slot to run sabotage res instead of special spiral. If you factor in how she is now 3 ranged instead of 2, I think, like, damage wise, it really, even though there's like it goes from 1.5x to 0.8, I don't really think like it's a difference. In fact, I think she might even still hit harder, like if we just did raw stats and calculations.
Lilina has a 42 base attack, probably a super boon. Ophelia has 37 base attack with a super boon there.
Yeah.
It is also worth noting that Ophelia has more dragon flowers.
Yes.
By
Yeah.
Okay, so that makes up say we do that. It makes up 3 attack, right? So we're now
Up to
40 versus 42. But again, everything in mind, the bigger threat range for me is the biggest thing. Because the one way that I've historically beat Ophelia's is either I miracle through her her attack, or I slow her down, like with a Loki or whatever.
I mean, you still slow down Lilina.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Sure, I know, but I'm saying it's much more scary because if she gets refreshed, she's moving much further.
Right. The threat range is a huge part of it. Not to mention that Studied 4 Ways has an attack res penalty built in.
Yep.
So even if the AoE isn't doing as much, first off, you don't have to run Spiral on B slots, so you're able to free that up for a lull, which actually really helps the damage output. And second, you're getting that res penalty in combat. So the damage output from the AoE is going to be significantly worse, but the in-combat damage...
I actually don't think it's significantly worse. I think because of the higher...
60% lower on this AoE... Well, no. 80%.
It's 70%.
70%.
You'll get it eventually.
in the middle. 70% lower AoE damage. That's going to be dramatically lower, even if Lilina has slightly better visible attack. But the in-combat damage is going to be significantly better on the Lilina's part.
Yeah,
so it really comes
that
down to
is
that.
true.
Not to mention the fact that Lilina is red, where, keeping in mind, one of the best tanks to Ophelia is a mage that is green. Right now. And I don't think Leon actually is going to like Lilina's damage output.
No, not at all.
Oh, also, the other thing that I wanted to point out was that she's much more self-sufficient. Ophelia has to be with mages. That's the problem. That's always slowed her down. Yeah. And the other thing was, like, if you want to maximize her usage, you're doing a rally trap on Ophelia, right? And her her partner here is Legendary Azura. The problem with that is, Legendary Azura is water blessed constantly, so you're not getting the full, you know.
Lilina's fire blessed, to be fair.
Okay.
So you can't even use the unit consistently.
Sure.
Azura and Ophelia are both blue mages as well.
Right, which kind of factors into color disadvantage. But I do see where you're coming from.
Right.
Just having Lilina slap on, even with Triandra or Plumeria, the threatened range is still going to be just as lethal without having to really sacrifice a slot just for the refresher.
Yeah. That's a significant thing. So I think she's really, really good from that respect. Like, it's just, for me, it's just like a markedly improved Ophelia. They took that same concept from years ago and just greatly refined it.
Yeah. Its damage output is debatable as to which one really gets the better edge, but this is much easier to use because you don't need any other units to set up Lilina. She's already set up. I guess you don't have speed, so Lilina can't, like, potentially double, but...
I don't think she needs to. If she gets the AoE off, I think she's fine.
Exactly.
But I feel like she's better thought out, which, by the way, that's one of the things that bothered me about Ophelia, right? Ophelia, also the Hardy Bearing being built in is huge.
Oh yeah, they definitely took
works
everything
really
that
well
they
with her
needed
kick,
out
but
of
it
Ophelia's
could
kit.
done more like punch through evasion effects like close call.
Another thing is, like with pulse smoke there, it may not be a particularly common thing to run into, but if Miracle is in use on an infantry pulse team, then it'll disrupt that very nicely.
Absolutely. She actually can be used in offense as much better than Ophelia from that perspective, both of being better ranged and from being able to one-shot enemy units while also stopping IP chains.
Right.
And then, of course,
Lilina's
getting the chip.
Yeah. Lilina's best seal is probably going to be Savage Blow.
I wouldn't say that.
Maybe. I think it's a little bit dependent. A lot of her damage does come in combat, and being able to stack attack res solo or attack dev solo rather, might be advantageous, especially if you have to take a single physical shot, because you can kind of stack her defense up.
Yeah, because I've talked about, like, Miracle is one of the ways you can deal with, like, AoE damage. If you can tank the AoE and tank the next following shot, you should win at that point.
With Double Mythic Blessing, assuming Lilina is using Ether Raids, Legendary just on her own is a different question altogether. But in Ether Raids, if she has 2 mythics and then runs low attack res with attack defense solo, just as an option, then out the gate, she's already hitting, what now, 19, 25, 31 defense. So you could definitely salvage that. But otherwise, you could just, you know, attack +3 to visibly stack attack. I guess you can't really do smokes right now, so there's not that. Savage Blow, I think, is definitely one of the best options. I just wanted to look at others, and attack def solo, or as Strone just mentioned, Mystic Boost would be a great option as well.
There definitely are options, because Mystic Boost is one of those things that would help make sure that the condition for the end combat boost and Hardy Bearing would remain fulfilled. I honestly just think that Savage Blow is going to be one of those things that will better help dismantle any teams and also disrupt any potential healer support.
Right. It's just a matter of if you want to choose something that's a little more direct. Savage Blow kind of is better layered, but just other options for the sake of the unit. The interesting thing is that Lilina, because she has attack res penalties, particularly attack, building her to be more self-sufficient as a tankish kind of unit, magically, or even just taking shots physically, is not out of the question whatsoever.
I actually like that idea a lot more, because that's the one thing I was going to argue she has over Ophelia as well. Ophelia lacks that kind of focus because she just has HP bulk and speed as her protection, whereas Lilina is all about res, and she just doubles down on res.
Yeah, and Lilina probably won't be running Life and Death as much, but even if she does, that attack res penalty is not egregious enough to make it terrible.
Because that's still dropping it to 35 at base.
Yeah. Fine.
Actually, that's something I wanted to talk about as well. I don't think she should use Life and Death. I don't even think she should use Fury.
You should not use Fury under any circumstance.
Mystic Boost.
Because if you're going to use Mystic Boost, then okay, I guess, but you still need some outside form of healing to make sure that she stays above that 25%.
It's 25% though.
Yeah, that's 25%. Unless you're taking a serious hit during combat, in which case Fury's bulk is actually helping that. 25% is pretty lenient for 2 damage per combat.
Yeah. No, the reason why I bring this up is because I just don't think it's necessary, right? Because she has Hardy Bearing built in. Her next hit is guaranteed anyways. So what if your AoE does a little bit less damage? I think she's still like wipe the floor.
Not to mention that there are more units nowadays that reduce AoEs harder than in-combat damage, and funnily enough, it might in some cases just be better to double down on that, rather than focusing on visible attack for your AoEs. Not to mention you might avoid chills better that way.
Oh yeah, that's actually the big thing too. Chills are being thrown out everywhere. Yeah. Well, somebody has to take it though, so.
Well, yeah, but you can just use it. Like, even Edelgard has 5 more visible attack than Lilina, specifically Brave, at base. So you can realistically just have something like that take the Shrine or chill better than Lilina.
Oh, also,
Lilina has base 42 attack.
But
yeah,
14 might with no attack +3.
Yeah.
Also, the other thing I wanted to talk about was just people were talking about this earlier. Speed damage reduction stopping her. I don't think that's gonna happen.
I mean, it technically does.
Okay, you could say technically, but how many of these really fast speed damage reduction heroes have 30+ res?
Well, let's put it this way: doesn't damage reduction also go on the AOE, the 40%?
Yeah, it's on the AOE and then the actual hit. But I'm saying their base res is so low anyways that we're probably not gonna survive.
I mean,
it's a very arguable thing.
Keep in mind, okay, so let's say we're doing with 25 res, just very markedly below average. So we take base Lilina, so that's 31 base damage. Goes down to what now? 24 with the AOE.
Okay.
That only does about 15 damage.
Yeah, also
How are you getting 31?
25, 56 visible attack minus 25 res.
Multiply it by 0.8.
Yeah.
I didn't do that yet.
Okay.
So
sure.
that would become 24. And then you take 60% of that. That's only about 15 damage. So, even at 25 visible res, if you get full damage reduction, it's only gonna be like 30.
Wait, hold on. How's their actual hits like so low?
Oh, I haven't actually factored in the res penalties.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a little more than that, but not by a ton. So
Yeah.
we take off 6, so that goes down to 19. And then we add 7 attack because the attack res solo factors in, so that is now 63. So,
sabotage is a penalty of 7, not 6.
Yeah, I'm not counting the sabotage just for the sake of simplicity.
There's no in-combat res debuff. It's an in-combat attack buff on her tome.
So that'd be about 27 damage on top. So in total, that would be a little more than 40.
Yeah.
Given HP buffs are so common in Ether Raids especially, and the fact that I'm using a 25 res unit, where usually CC repel tanks have in-combat res, it's not unreasonable for them to take a Lilina shot pretty well. But if it's a very well-invested Lilina against a pretty mediocrely invested speed tank, they're dead. They're dead. So
because
it's definitely an investment problem.
Because we're not, if you're gonna factor in like in combat stuff, most likely that's what seals. If we factor in seals, if we factor
Rita, for example, has 4 res in a weapon, that would offset it pretty significantly.
Well, sure. But that's, well, actually, that gets into particulars of which character, because they don't all do that. But yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, a lot of them run Swift Stance or attack or speed res solo for an extra 6 to 4
I know,
res.
but we're not factoring any such solo skill, which, by the way,
for the sake of semantics, but you're right, we're not factoring in seal at all for the sake of simplicity.
I don't know. I feel like it wouldn't be too hard to set up for still just one shot these characters. Which, by the way, when it comes to damage reduction heroes being used as like the main sweeper in Ether Raids, I'm not sure about everybody else, but I don't see them very often. Like I see actual tanks.
It's really all or nothing. Like you still need a lot of HP to make that work, and the speed threshold is kind of risky nowadays, given how fast units are getting.
And the other thing is,
it's not a lot.
Okay, sure. The other thing was, even if they survive, they're barely alive.
Yeah. Now, Lilina is still going to do a massive chunk, and that's why my initial, she's not going to do as much as, say, Ophelia in her optimal circumstances, by maybe a small margin, but more realistically, Lilina can get the job done on more units, with less setup, and even if you tank her, it's not going to be fun, in just about all circumstances.
That also leads me to her partner being Ophelia, because I think if you get those two, I think you're pretty safe from like Vanish Sweepers.
Yeah, because Lilina's studied 4th place is the Hardy Bearing. You can definitely make the argument of running her with Ophelia running Hardy Bearing. So you have 2 Hardy Bearing AoE mages that are just turbocharging it.
Yep.
Out of the gate. That could be pretty nasty. So, yeah, I can see that happening. It's pretty self-sufficient.
Yeah. All right. Anything else to add? Because I think this is I'm just surprised that it's such a simple concept, but we didn't really visit it before. So
yeah, it's a very this is something a lot of people run by a lot of skill investment. Like you usually make this kind of stuff by a lot of SI. Like Sonya, for example, none of that's in her kit. You basically have to start it from the ground up with the refine. So it's a very, very powerful concept that I'm glad to see getting legendary use.
Yeah.
And of course, Mage Cavalry. It's pretty nice, even if it means her defense is terrible.
Actually, that's the other thing I want to say. Her being a legendary hero actually kind of sucks, because she's like pretty damn ideal for Ether Raids, and we kept talking about Ether Raids, but being fire kind of just messes everything up. She would have to be used the same like concept of like legendary Azura, and Yeah, that's kind of harsh because with the new amount of like extended lift loss we can have, running off blessing heroes is really difficult. Like that's a hard choice to make now.
Right. It's definitely not ideal, but on corresponding fire seasons, I can imagine this could be quite the threat. And it's not even easy. It's not particularly easy to pulse down because it's only one cooldown. So there's no time pulse or anything granted, but it doesn't take long for her to recharge it, gifted magic being. So that's also kind of threatening. That said, I think she's definitely not the most threatening legendary hero we've ever had, if we're being honest.
Which, by the way, did you see her coming?
Actually, I said that this would be one of the legendary heroes that would likely be added within next year. Yeah. I made a
I'm
list
not terribly surprised by it.
Because I thought it actually was going to be Byleth this month, but
I didn't think it was going to be Byleth myself.
I think
I thought
Byleth
they'd
would make the
actually
most
work
sense
on it.
considering they literally reran CYL the legendary banner. What the heck?
Yeah,
Like you're literally
kidding.
setting this up.
And it's a
Last year, Byleth was not on the banner with every other Three Houses Lord.
Wait,
Yeah.
what does it
All
that
three,
have to do
three
with
houses
anything?
Lords. Not
All
much.
Three Houses Lords were on Celica's banner last year.
Yeah.
This year we got the CYL Three Houses Lords.
I mean, that's basically
Without
by
Byleth.
coincidence.
It is quite a bit of a coincidence, but there's also the fact that our last legendary unit was Dimitri anyway.
I wouldn't have been surprised if they just kept spamming Three Houses because there are
The
four.
last
legendary
time
heroes
they
that play
did
month.
consecutive games for legendaries, though, was Tiki and Marth.
Okay,
It's Three
isn't
Houses.
that
It's
just
Three
the
Houses and
precedence
they
that
did-
it could happen?
Yeah. I kind of expected it because I thought they were just gonna go right for the throat, finishing the Three Houses Lords. But if it wasn't going to be one of them, my two immediate thoughts were Micaiah and Lilina. So, other than Byleth, this is probably what
Wait.
I've said next for red.
Hold on, do we seriously not have legendary Micaiah? Because it feels
We
like
don't.
because it
We
feels
don't.
like we do.
I don't know how, but we have 4 Micaiah and none of them are legendary.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
last time we
Julia
did
Leaf.
consecutive was Julia and Leif, since Leif is counted as genealogy in
Alright.
Thracia.
Okay, well, even better.
I
That's
suppose that's more of a technicality.
I mean, that's still, yeah, it's still legitimately though.
okay.
Yeah. So I wouldn't have been surprised. But that said, Lilina is a very welcome legendary hero and probably one of the least lordly of the legendary heroes we've had so far. Like, I don't think Lilina is usually considered as much a main lord as most others that have been in this so far. Maybe it's
Yeah,
just
the
me.
big thing for Lilina is she's Hector's daughter.
Pretty much. But I welcome her. She's gonna suck hard in arena.
Wait, what's her BSC? I didn't even bother calculating.
Doesn't really matter
158.
because, I guess. Thank you.
That-
Doesn't
Isn't that
truly
higher than
matter because-
Ophelia?
Yeah, 2
That's-
generations will do that to you.
I know. That's actually nutty. She really does
But-
just supersede her.
Yeah, for the most part. Though the Dragonflower Gap does, for all intents and purposes, kind of bridge it a little bit. This is a much more compartmental Ophelia. And I mean, if you really want to get technical here, you could just run an actual AoE on Lilina with some like quick impulse, Ostean pulse, or something like that. Super janky, but you could if you're really worried about it.
Yep.
But I would
That
do
being said, none of those are going to be able to work as well.
not even
simply
close.
because, yeah, not even close.
spiral.
Simply because, even with the slaying effect, there's still going to be 3 cooldown.
Yeah,
and
you
then
can't have your blade
2
through that.
afterwards. Whereas this, like, her natural special is going to be just stuck at 1 cooldown. It will never go beyond that.
Yeah, it's the same concept as with Corrin, where they just reduce the cooldown enough where with slaying it just can loop itself
Yeah.
indefinitely, basically.
Yep.
That said, I will hate to fight Lilina in arena. I just want to say that because
Oh, absolutely.
yeah, taking this shot without Vantage DC is gonna suck because of visible res being naturally kind of low. That said, however, not the most terrifying legendary hero all around. I still think that Dimitri, Crom, and maybe even Corrin are overall better. But this is probably one of the most useful legendary heroes we've ever had for ether raids. So there's also that.
Yeah. Also, on a personal note, I haven't like really seen a lot of Vantage Sweepers for a while now. Like,
I haven't either. I think
Yeah.
Altina's trying to bring it back.
yeah, I think outside Altina, it's really died down. I'm not saying there are none, Chad. It's just personally like the most recent Vantage Sweeper I fought was a Kranya, and that was it. Like, that's not even common anymore.
I think it's because its inconsistency is becoming more blatant as time goes on, and with things like Lilina, Hardy Bearing, which I have
Yeah.
forgot for a second there. Hardy Bearing, just completely screws it up.
Which, by the way, if you run her, I think you should run Ophelia because one Hardy Bearing is so easy to deal with. Like, I don't care anymore about one Hardy Bearing, you know?
Now you always have to run 2, and that's why Myogis usually come into play. Dragon Slasher, Caltrop,
Or Dancer Micaiah.
or Micaiah, things like
Dancer
that.
By the way, Dancer Micaiah, unless you have multiple merges on her and she's plus attack, I don't care about that either. You can actually shrug her off pretty easily in a lot of cases.
There aren't enough armored super tanks that hate her, unless
Yeah.
it's like Edelgard.
Yeah.
Lilina is obviously much better in that regard, but I mean, you could technically even run triple now with Myogi, Lilina, Ophelia with Hardy Bearing Seal, and just completely ruin any Vantage Sweeper's day. So it's ironic, but Lilina is the solution to the problem that hasn't even started being Altina.
Yeah, which, by the way, I think that's the future. I'm so serious about getting Altina, running her with Bridal Micaiah, or Dual Micaiah, and then we're gonna go on this amazing trip of if you can't like, which, by the way, I think she can actually like, legitimately have a chance of taking this shot, right? Because those are 2 reds and her base res is so high.
Yeah, if it's possible, it's just that I kind of find it funny that this is probably one of the best ways to counter her
Yeah.
already.
Yeah, Unity is going to be key in being able to use Altina.
Absolutely. So, I find that interaction interesting out the gate. But with Ophelia, Vantage Sweeping can be very finicky in the future.
Yeah.
But we've been wrong about the meta in the past. There are a lot of things that seem like it's definitely going to happen and then it hasn't happened. For example, like the abusive Flame with... I mean, MadCrash showed me yesterday, but to use Flame's skill... What's it called again?
Rescue.
Mhm.
Yeah, to use Rescue to create, like, horrendous situations for your opponents. Like,
Yeah.
there are so many things that she could do, but no one does it.
Yeah. Such is the meta.
Right, like the damage reduction. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, even though we think it's, like, pretty... if you had the choice, would do this. The amount of people who would make the choice, who really knows?
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, in my perspective, I thought Legendary Dimitri was going to be a little less meta than he ended up being. And I think Lilina probably is going to end up being more meta than she will be. But, I mean, who can tell? It's
I would
how
not be
people summon.
surprised if Lilina is our first legendary to score in the 185, just getting it raw from the dual effect. Because looking at her kit, unless that's a 600 SP special, she's not getting any extra boosted score from anywhere.
No. She's probably going to be scoring normal. I think she's going to score like Dimitri because they already boosted the legendary scoring once. I doubt they'll do it again so soon. I mean, we'll see, but I doubt they're going to do it twice in a year.
Wait, are you
Because
serious?
What?
This is gonna suck so much ass fighting her in arena.
Yeah, that was
Oh,
my
yeah.
immediate impression. A 3-range Cavalier with high BST scoring because of legendary status. AoE spamming.
Yeah,
And it's red.
like I said, I'm pretty sure she's gonna get the 185 treatment because of her kit, unless it's a 600 SP special. Because
Highly doubt it.
my reasoning is every other 180 scoring unit has some way of scoring as if they're in the 185 bracket. With
Something
Corrin,
tells
she
me that-
actually gets there. With Dimitri, Crom, and Edelgard, they have their personal B skills, or in Crom's case, to change fate, which is an increased scoring assist skill, which pushes them to that extra bracket if you give them a 300 SPC skill.
My perspective is that their hindsight isn't 2020, and that they made a legendary hero for once that actually falls behind in the scoring curve by a small margin. That's what I'm expecting, especially since she's a mage cavalier. The expectation of her scoring worse than everybody else is not something I would find far-fetched.
Okay, we'll see. It doesn't really matter. We'll find out in tier 2.
Imagine
yeah,
this in
we'll find
arena
out
with
tomorrow
Duo Sigurd. Also 185 from Legend Effect will probably be in February, since that would be 1 year from Crom, who brought it up to 180.
Fuck Crom.
Legendary Crom.
The only Crom that matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
ruined my life. You know that?
He's ruined
Yeah.
everybody's
Water
lives.
season fucking sucks. And Lilina is going to make sure that fire season absolutely sucks.
Not as much, because you can't. There's no refreshers native to fire.
I
there's
know,
no
but
containment.
you can't really bait her in. Like, okay, well you can, but baiting her in is awkward.
Yeah, you need a direct tank. And here's the problem. I don't know about you, but my distant counter units are green.
Well, I'm gonna have. Actually, that's true. I'm gonna have 2 double distant counter units because it's gonna be Hannah, Flame Emperor, and Young Martha. They're all gonna have distant counter, by the way, but none
Here's
of
the
them will
problem with
take the
Young
hit.
Marth.
Yeah.
He doesn't get advantage off rapier, so
Yeah, that's why this is so annoying.
you're gonna need that damage reduction to have a chance.
Well,
Let's
I have to bait her
see,
in. Like I have
Yeah.
to bait her in and then hit her, and then
I mean-
then hope whoever's behind her doesning kill me.
The benefit is she overextends to the point where if you're just lurking outside her range, she might just fall into your palm, the palm of your hand. And given Edelgard is also there, Young Marth just goes to town on these two, if he has the chance.
Weirdly enough, one of your best bets for dealing with Lilina might be Brave Dimitri.
If you have him.
Yeah, if you have him. Good luck on that. And hey, he's on this banner.
He is.
If you want him though, wait until the anniversary. He's probably gonna be on a Hero Fest.
And I'm just gonna say, by the way,
Hmm?
Legendary Dimitri over Brave Dimitri. Just putting that out there.
Whoa.
Except for the fact that Legendary Dimitri is stuck in water season.
Yeah, you won't be able to overlap them. I guess Brave Dimitri, but that res not gonna be very fun to work with.
Legendary
said
Dimitri
25.
has even less.
Though at least he gets 5 immediately out of Eredbar.
True enough. Still.
But yeah, great unit, simple, and yet probably gonna be semi-meta defining.
Yeah.
Semi.
Yeah.
I have a feeling Lilina and Edelgard are going to be the meta for fire season.
No doubt. But I'm also gonna say this month being Christmas banner with Sparks, as well as Reagan month. I'm not sure how many whales are gonna plus 10 are out of the gate to make the meta that way.
I wouldn't see it being too many right away, but I do see her getting a rerun in like 2 months.
Well, yeah, but I'll just say don't expect her full force this month.
It took a little bit of time for Crom to really take off, too.
Right.
That's what I'm about to say. I expect this to be inevitable.
Yeah. Lilina's inevitably gonna be meta.
Just
It's
forget
gonna-
Thanos. No!
Yeah, the initial impression of Legendary Crom from a lot of people was extremely underwhelming.
Mhm.
And then it turns
we
out,
were
oh
wrong.
wait, he is the meta.
Yeah. Oops. That was a bad.
I called that, by the way.
I didn't. I underestimated him so hard. And I regret it.
I don't regret anything. Fuck Crom.
Good point.
Okay, who's
couldn't
pulling?
get it better myself.
Who's pulling on this banner?
Nope.
Yeah.
If you manage to avoid the temptation of the Christmas banner, then this is going to be really, really good. But let's not forget that the New Year's banner is going to be right around the corner, and the Fallen banner is getting a rerun.
And Ike is
Shortly after
stupidly
that.
good. Julia's stupidly good. So for me personally, I'm going to try and get one red hero, and that's it. Because I need a spark for Christmas, and I'm not definitely sure until I see the results of New Year banner. So I'm gonna be waiting, but I will pull if there's nothing good on New Year.
I will be very surprised if Plumeria is not featured in some way on the New Year's banner, because she's probably the most popular of the fairies.
We shall see what their theme for it is, if it goes full on again or not. Or heroes, OCs rather.
Yeah.
But yeah, too many banners surrounding this to be particularly appetizing, even though the banner itself is actually pretty good.